everybody, this is Carolina Millan here. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Hustle. And today I'm here with Erik J. Olson. He is the CEO of Array Digital, a marketing agency over there in Virginia in the US. How are you, Erik?
I am doing okay. How are
Just
you doing?
okay?
Just okay, yeah. So,
Yeah, totally understandable.
yeah, we were just talking about this before you started recording. So we're right at the cusp of a pandemic hitting the United States. And as someone who runs a advertising and marketing agency, I'm a little worried about the consequences of what's going to happen because usually when there's some sort of thing going on like this that affects the economy, clients start to pull back on advertising and marketing. So we're kind of bracing right now and hoping for the best.
Exactly. Yeah, same here. It hasn't hit us that hard yet. We only have about 30 plus cases, but it's eventually going to unfold the same way as everywhere else. Like it's inevitable.
Yeah,
So, Well, so Erik, if you could share with us, with a few people listening that might not know you yet, if you could share a little bit about your background story and how you started your current business.
sure. So yeah, I'm the CEO of Array Digital. We are a B2C, mostly service-based digital marketing agency in Chesapeake, Virginia. We've been in business for 3 years now. We are the product of a merger between my old company, which used to do custom software development, and my business partner's company, which was a web design company. So after we met, we worked on a couple of projects together, and the idea was we were going to come together and we were going to build beautiful looking software, mobile apps that worked amazing. So I could make software that worked amazing, but it didn't really look that great, and he could make websites that looked amazing but were limited in functionality. And so it was a pretty good marriage of skill sets. There wasn't a whole lot of overlap between my company and his company. Well, when we did that, we decided that we wanted to also do digital marketing. So we hired a digital marketer, and the idea was we would build this product, whether it was a website or a mobile app. And then once we gave it to the client, we wanted to continue to work with them in a marketing capacity so we could frankly continue to invoice them, right? So we hired a marketer, and I didn't know what he was doing. And after a couple of months, I was like, "Hey, Jake, what do you do all day? And like, what you do, does it really add value?" And so I started to really look into digital marketing quite extensively. And for about a year or so, that's all I did. I just studied and studied and studied digital marketing and got deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And I realized that it was actually a very good opportunity for us. There's a lot of benefits to digital marketing for a company, more so than just getting a product from someone like us. We could actually help our customers a lot more with digital marketing than just building a website. And also for us, it came with recurring revenue. So instead of just doing a project and handing it off when we were done with that client, we would have worked with them for a long term. So about the beginning of 2018, we decided we were going to go all in on digital marketing. Took us about a year to finally cut over, but we've been 100% digital marketing for about 2.5 years now.
2.5 years. All right. Nice. Yeah, I mean that's probably the good thing about services. Sometimes you can help people
That's right.
enhance what they're already doing. So that is a great way to look at it. Now, you mentioned to me like we started interacting on Twitter a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
and you mentioned to me that you have this project on your podcast where you're documenting your journey to 200 million. So that I would be really interested in hearing what are some of the steps, some of the actions that you guys are taking, and of course that the people listening or watching could
Yeah.
implement somehow in their own businesses.
Sure. So it was probably about 2 years ago. We were in a day long like leadership training session, and the facilitator asked if you had one goal to accomplish in your career in say like the next 10 to 15 years, what would that one thing be? And my business partner and I were in there, and we talked and we talked, and we were like, at first we're like, well, maybe it'd be, having like 5 offices, but it was an arbitrary number. Maybe it'd be 100 employees or 500 employees. And at some point I just said, honestly, I would really love to have $100 million company. I don't know how we're going to get there. It's a huge number, but that big number also represents tremendous opportunity for everyone in the organization. And he was like, yeah, me too. And so we, it took a couple of days to determine that we were serious about it. But we said, all right, this is what we want to do. We want to grow to $100 million company. So when we decided to put out a podcast, we were brainstorming about what we wanted to talk about. And what we kept coming back to, and what we talk about between him and myself, is we talk about entrepreneurialism and all the things that we're doing to improve the company, improve our processes, get better survey scores from our clients, make sure our clients are happy, communicating with them, training the team, and basically just building the company and trying to scale it. And so we have a daily podcast called Journey to $100 Million, where every single day we're talking about something that we're doing to grow the business. We still don't know exactly how we're going to get there, and we're really, really far away from that huge goal. We're at $2 million in recurring revenue right now. So it's one of those things that's just, it's so big and audacious that it's almost impossible to think about. But it's made us change the way that we operate. It's made us change our expectations internally. You'll hear people in the company say things like, hey, that's not the way that $100 million company is going to run.
Right.
And so they're thinking bigger now, and there's a bigger goal, and everyone's aligned with that. And it's pretty awesome. In the podcast, so that kind of the normal formula that we have for the recording is we talk about something that we screwed up in the business, which, we screw up quite a bit, actually. So some sort of like screw up, the lesson learned with that, and then a piece of advice for the listeners so that maybe they could avoid making that same mistake.
Good. So you mentioned that there are some changes that you've had to make. What are some of those specific changes?
Yeah, quite a bit. So one big change is finding out what clients think of our services. So for a long time, we had no idea really if clients were happy with us or not. We knew that some clients were paying bills, and every once in a while a client wasn't paying a bill, and every once in a while we'd get an email where they were happy, and every once in a while we'd get an email where they were pissed. So one of the things that we did is we decided that we were going to actually survey them. So we set up an NPS program, which is the Net Promoter Score. And every 3 months, we send an email to every one of our clients, and we ask, would you recommend us to a colleague? And for anyone who's not familiar with the Net Promoter Score, the way it works is you ask one question, that question, which is also called the ultimate question. And it wraps up a lot of psychology about things like, are you going to put your reputation on the line to refer this vendor or partner to someone that you know? So it's a meaningful question if you're going to make a recommendation or not. And they answer it on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being absolutely not, and 10 being absolutely yes. And all of that gets aggregated into a score, your NPS score. And the range of these NPS scores are -100 to +100. And 0 is neutral. So 0 means just as many people hate you as love you. So we started to send out this survey, and right off the bat, we were getting negatives. And we were like -20 at first. And I was like, oh no, this is terrible. Like, what are we going to do?
Right.
And we got a couple pieces of feedback, and I latched onto it, and I went and I talked to the clients that were upset with us, and I found out why. A lot of it had to do with communication or lack thereof. And so we started to put in processes very, very quickly to address those issues. And the score slowly improved from -20 to -10. All of a sudden we were +10. Right now we're at a 69, which is right around the range of, honestly, like Airbnb, Starbucks.
Nice.
They have NPS scores of about that range, which is humbling to me to know that we were able to improve pretty significantly, pretty quickly, just by asking our clients if they would recommend us or not.
Such a simple question that sometimes we completely overlook.
And it's usually a question that you actually don't want answered, right?
It's
because
scary.
everybody knows, everyone knows that you have issues in whatever it is that you do, that you're not perfect. And so it's very, very easy to focus on those, and it can get you down, right? So you can either let it get you down or you can try to improve.
Absolutely. So, what are you guys doing today to get more clients? What are some of your favorite strategies right now that are working?
So interestingly for us as a digital marketing agency, online ads don't work that great for us. We've tried and tried and tried, and we're running ads, but they're not very effective for us. And
Mm-hmm.
it's probably because, in my opinion, we are uh, we're trying to get other businesses. So we are actually in the marketing of B2B for ourselves. But ironically, the clients that we want are B2C. So for B2C, the reason that we service B2C clients, business to consumer clients, is because it's a lot easier for us and we have much more luck targeting their customers that are individuals on places like Facebook where there's a lot of individual personalized data. But we're going after other businesses. So we're actually in the B2B market. So ads aren't quite as effective for us. It's more like actually someone that you had on before, Gary Vee, he talks about hand-to-hand combat, and it's very similar
Yeah.
to that. It's hand-to-hand combat, going person to person to person and trying to scale that as much as possible. So I do a lot of things like connect with people on Twitter, which is how you and I connected. I
Right.
connect with people on LinkedIn. There's a strategy there, right? I'm not just connecting with anybody. I'm going after certain kinds of people that I want to connect with and start a conversation with.
But
So
how
we
are
do
you
a lot of
doing?
that.
What's your criteria? Like when you reach out to someone on Twitter or LinkedIn, what are you looking for?
So LinkedIn is probably an easier example. So on LinkedIn, I have a couple of lists of people that I want to connect with. So one list, as an example, are medical administrators. These are the people at the front desk that run medical practices. So the medical industry is one of our verticals, and I know that I can't get to the doctors, who are the actual decision makers, because doctors are just too busy to talk to you, but I can get to the administrators who are in charge of doing things like finding other digital marketing agencies to replace the ones that they have right now. So I connect with them, or I send a connection request. If they accept, then I actually have a Zap, using Zapier, that goes off and tells me, oh, this person just connected with you. And then I can send them a message that's customized for them. And it's a very simple message. One of the things that you've probably seen a lot, especially on LinkedIn, is once you accept a connection request, the person sends you a book,
Oh
right?
God, yes.
Paragraph after paragraph after paragraph after paragraph with like 10 hyperlinks. And you're like, I'm not going to read this. So, I want to start a conversation, but I also I don't want to spam. So, so my approach is to introduce myself the same way that if I were walking up to someone in a networking event.
Right.
So I try to mimic exactly what I would do in the real world. I walk up and I say, hi, my name's Erik. What's your name? Or I probably want to say, what's your name on LinkedIn, but I'd say, hi, my name's Erik. The conversation would naturally go to, so Erik, what do you do? So I answer that question too. I run a digital marketing agency in Chesapeake, Virginia. So that's basically my message. And I hope that they respond. If they don't respond, then in a week or two, then I can message them again. And I can say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
by the way, we work with a lot of medical facilities in the area. Let me know if you're interested in more information. But I don't send hyperlinks unless people ask for more information. I'm just not that pushy because frankly, I can get to a lot of these people one by one by one.
No, I mean, I every once in a while I get, well, more than every once in a while, very often I get people messaging me like that,
Yeah.
hey, I'm looking for like-minded people, and they send me this huge paragraph, and sometimes you can tell that they didn't even look at my profile, like,
Yes.
because they offer me things that, like, sometimes people offer me a job. I'm like, look at my profile. The last time I had a job was 10 years ago, and you're offering me a job. and stuff like that. Or they want to offer me a business opportunity with this new company that is expanding in South America. And I'm like, okay, you have to show that you care about the other person first,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'd be like if they reached out to you and they said, "Hey, are you interested in starting a podcast? I can help you."
exactly.
We get
Exactly.
that all the time. I love when people pitch digital marketing to me.
No, I get that too. So, hey, is your business struggling?
Yeah, it's so funny.
I know. So, all right. So, is LinkedIn right now your best way to get customers? And I'm really surprised you're doing this yourself. Like you don't have an assistant contacting people. You're doing it yourself.
I do a lot of it myself. I do have an assistant. So any kind of like standard message that doesn't require any personalization, um, that I can have an assistant send out. I like to do the DMs myself because a lot of times it requires personalization, especially on Twitter. So on LinkedIn, people are very typically putting in their real first and last name. So you can personalize it based on that, but you really should actually look at their profile to make sure that it makes sense. So you don't want to use automation, in my opinion. There's been a couple of times where I've looked into automation, and the person's name in LinkedIn is something like Dr. Bob Smith. And so the automation will take the first word, doctor, and it'll say, hi, DR, period. So it puts two periods in, right? Because there's a period after doctor. And so like, you don't want that kind of message to go out.
No.
And, like for you, if I were to send you a message, I probably wouldn't want to say, I'm in Chesapeake. I'd want to say the United States, right? But if you were close to me in a different state, then I would say I'm in Virginia. But if you were very, very close to me, like the next city over, then Chesapeake would make sense. So, there's like just micro personalizations that frankly only a human can do. So I'm a big believer in, if you're going to put any personalization in, then a human being has to look at that message first and make sure it makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because there's just so much, right now, there's so much automation. And now we can tell immediately when somebody genuinely took the time to write a message as opposed to a copy paste that went to another 100 people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. In LinkedIn, I like to use my middle initial because Erik Olson, my first and last name, there's a lot of Erik Olsons running around the world.
Right.
And so there's fewer Erik J. Olson. So it's just a little way of differentiating myself from a marketing perspective and, personal branding. So I like to have that J in there in the public forum.
Yeah.
So on LinkedIn, they don't have a middle initial field. So I put the J in the first name. So my first name is Erik J, period. And then the last name is Olson. And I'll get messages from people where it says, hi, Erik J, period, comma. And or I'll get messages from people where I'll DM them and I'll say hi, and they'll respond back, hi, Erik J, which is like one of those button options, that you can just press. And so it's funny. I can always tell when there's some sort of automation or frankly laziness that's involved.
I know in LinkedIn now, like whenever somebody messages you, they have all these little buttons where with the standard replies, I try to avoid it as much as I can. Even if I'm gonna type the same thing, like thank you, I just go and type it. Like I just can't with that.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah.
Every once in a while I'll click one of those buttons if it makes sense. If it feels like it would actually be something I would say.
I do use the thumbs up on Facebook a lot. Like that's useful.
Yeah. Or the reactions in Twitter.
Yeah, reactions and that kind of stuff. It's cool. So, what are some of the current, like you being in running a digital marketing agency, what are some of the trends that you are seeing right now? Let's, for just a second, ignore the contingency that we're going through.
Yeah.
Then we go back to that. But what are some of the trends that you're seeing now this year in terms of marketing?
Yeah, so I wrote a guide called Digital Marketing Trends for 2020 that came out in December of last year. And some of the trends that I were seeing were things like messaging. So I think messaging is picking up as a way to communicate. Now, messaging's been around for a long time, but what I'm seeing is that people seem to prefer messaging one-on-one or even one to a group, like in a group setting, over messaging in a public forum. So when I say messaging, I mean kind of like in a private setting.
Right.
And I've even seen it where people will replace their contact us form on their website with ManyChat or a Facebook Messenger, and they love it. And so the thing is, so many people are on Facebook that you can replace your contact us form with a Facebook Messenger, and it's really nice because it has rules, conversational rules put into it. So you can ask them questions, like standard questions, like just here's an example. We don't do this on our website, but we've been talking about implementing it. So if someone were to initiate a conversation with our Facebook chatbot, we could put in rules that say something like, what service are you interested in? And then we can list out our services, and they could pick, I don't know, social media. And if they pick social media, then we can ask further questions like,
Right.
which social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. And so you can kind of route them a little bit before you actually send them off to a human.
Yes.
So I think that's pretty neat. Ephemeral content is something that we're seeing a lot of. So this is content that doesn't persist and hang around for a long time. It's only around for 24 hours, like stories.
Yeah.
That's becoming just more and more prevalent. So certainly Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook now has stories. LinkedIn is testing stories, and it's open to a small subset of power users, influencers on LinkedIn. And I actually put out a tweet a couple of days ago. I had it buffered, so it was scheduled to go out. And the question was, I wonder when Twitter is going to come out with stories. And that same day, like an hour before my tweet went out, they announced that they were going to come out with stories.
Yeah, I have
I
mixed
forget what they're
feelings
calling
about
it, but it doesn't seem to really fit because a tweet is like a story, right? I mean, it's the half-life of a tweet is like 15 minutes, and if people don't see your tweet in like an hour, they'll probably never see it unless it's pinned.
Yeah, unless it gets a lot of engagement, then it can live on a few days. But most tweets don't get that.
That's
and I don't know. I mean, what I like about Twitter is that it doesn't have stories. So it's like, for me, Twitter is very unique. Like, it separates itself because of the way the conversation flows. And if they add stories in there, it's like, okay, everybody's doing it, so let's do it too. And actually, on that day, it was trending worldwide. Rest in peace, Twitter. Like, everybody hated it.
Yep, I saw that, which was interesting. Yeah, so maybe it'll be amazing. I don't know. Twitter's interesting. So Twitter's my favorite, which is odd. Like I think most people are just in love with Instagram, but I don't know. I really just enjoy Twitter. I think it's fun. I think there's a lot more of my people, if you will, people that I have something in common with on Twitter, people that are kind of like hustling, and there's just more people like me on there. And there's the conversations are easier to have. On Instagram, it feels like a popularity contest. And
yep.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And what I love about Twitter is exactly that you can go and have actual conversations with people, with random strangers. You cannot do that easily on Facebook. You cannot do it easily on Instagram at all, actually. So I mean, and it's also been my favorite network for a really, really long time. Are you using Twitter right now for your clients?
No. So we actually just finally agreed that we're not even going to offer it anymore. So we used to offer, we've offered Twitter management. So we've always offered Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn a little bit, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us because we do focus on B2C, but we have some clients that want some B2B presence there. And we do have some B2B clients, but that's just not the kind of client that we go after.
Right.
And we've always offered Twitter, but no one's ever taken us up on Twitter. So, I think we do work with companies more than personal brands. And I think personal brands do much, much better on Twitter than company brands. There are exceptions. Certainly there's some big brands that have done very well for themselves, like Wendy's,
Yeah.
That's just not the kind of work that we do here. So I would imagine if you're on the social media team of Wendy's, they've got a big crew and they're probably 24/7 and they're on top of it, So if
Yeah,
something's happening, they're on top of it and they're responding. And we don't really have the staff to support that. Like we can't do 24/7 operations, which is probably what
absolutely.
an account like Wendy's would require. But they've done, some people have had great success, but no, we don't offer that. So we focus on Facebook and Instagram. Those are the two social media
Mm,
platforms that are the biggest by far of the rest. I mean, Facebook is the biggest by far. Instagram is kind of is certainly in second place, but it's in a pack with everyone else.
right.
But since we service businesses, Facebook's where we believe businesses need to be. Instagram is a close second.
Definitely. What would be your advice to somebody who might be listening or watching and they would like to start a marketing agency like now, 2020? What would be your advice to them to get started?
Sure. Well, I would say figure out what skill set you have yourself that you could bring to the marketing world. And I'm not saying you have to be the best in the world at something, but what is it that you do that's marketing related that you could start selling right away? So I'm a big believer in spending less time in planning and writing business plans and things like that. And then instead spending that time in executing. So go find someone that is willing to buy your services, whatever the service is or whatever the product is you sell. Go find someone that's interested. If you can't convince someone that they should pay you money in exchange for your offering, a business plan is not going to help. So even if it's not the perfect plan, just go do it.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about starting your own marketing or advertising agency, what is it that you do in that realm? Are you a web designer? Are you someone that knows brand inside and out? Can you create Google ads? Whatever that thing is, start with that and just say that's what your agency does. If you need to at this point, just niche down to what you do. You can expand later if you want, but have your company do what you do. And I would also limit it, if you can, to like one thing. So one of the mistakes that a lot of founders do is, we're all a collection of these unique experiences and skill sets. And so they often model their company around their collection of skill sets. So as an example, digital marketing for me. I also know how to do custom software development. I also know how to do real world construction. I could probably build a house. I've certainly renovated a lot of houses. Those three things don't necessarily go together in a business. It's very hard to explain that I build houses and I can do digital marketing.
Right.
But a lot of times people will bring all their skills to the table when they're creating a company. And what I think they really should do is just focus in on one, because it's really hard to get people's attention these days. And so if you start stringing together all these different things that your business does, you just lose their attention. It has to be super crystal clear what you do, and within like 5 seconds. Like one sentence has to describe what you do, preferably a very, very short sentence. And if you can't get it out in one sentence, you're going to have a very difficult time selling your offering.
Makes total sense. Yeah. So something that we were talking about before we started recording. You mentioned you did an event last night, like before we speak, and so you were telling me that there was a little bit of there were less people turning up than there were supposed to. But how did it go, regardless?
It went great. It actually went great. So for the last year and a half, we have been doing a free marketing meetup called Marketers Anonymous.
Nice.
So every month we invite speakers out and they talk about marketing in their business. They could be business owners or they could be actual marketers that work for a business. And it's gone very well. And so we wanted to do something a little bit bigger, and we wanted to do a paid event. And so this was our very first paid event. But we kept having trouble with the actual event date. So the very first event date was supposed to be on February 20th, and it snowed here, and it doesn't snow here often. And just the threat of snow completely shuts down society around here.
Right.
And so the day of the event, we had to postpone it. And we postponed it for about 3 weeks until March 12th. And I don't recall, but when we picked that date, I don't think there was anything about coronavirus that certainly had made it to me. Like that wasn't a thing at the time. So it wasn't on my radar at all. But we picked March 12th. We started to remarket it for it. Anyone who had to cancel, we resold their tickets. We sold out a second time. We sold 200 tickets. Well, the event was last night on March 12th, and we had to decide if we were going to cancel it again or not. But I decided to go through with it because the coronavirus, it's being talked about where I'm at in Virginia, but it really hadn't like struck too close to home yet.
Right.
So, things around the world are getting canceled, but that wasn't really happening here yet. And so we decided, all right, we're going to go forward with it. But we also realized that it was probably going to be one of the last public events in the area for a while. And so we actually used that kind of to our benefit. So in the email that went out the day before and the day of, we kind of joked about it a little bit, like, hey, the zombies are coming. This is going to be the last event before the flesh-eating zombies arrive. So bring your business cards. And so we did sell 200 tickets, but only about 120 people showed up. So it was a little disappointing from that regard. I mean, the tickets were sold. So from a financial perspective, we were okay, but we wanted to pack out the room. But besides that, the event went great. The people that were there were super interested. They were taking a lot of pictures. So it was the State of Digital Marketing address, and it was all about the things that we believe are working now in digital marketing. And the reason that we wanted to do that is because there's always a lot of talk about trends and new shiny objects and new apps that are coming out. So people will talk incessantly about things like TikTok,
exactly,
or Byte app, right? The new Vine, and like something new comes out and you want to jump on it. But as a business owner, does that make sense? Is that where you want to spend your time and resources, always chasing after the new hotness? Or should you be focusing on other things that are working right now? So I'm very practical in the advice that I give. I let people know that there's these new cool things going on. But for you probably want to be focusing on the basics at this point. And so for most businesses, most of the time, in our experience, that means websites, Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram and Facebook, social media, and SEO and article writing. It's kind of boring at this point. It's kind of the basic digital marketing, but that works. Video as well. Those things work, and they work very, very well for businesses.
So I take it you're not on TikTok yet.
I am.
Oh yeah, okay, you are.
Yeah,
good.
I mean, I like it.
Too.
Yeah, I don't put out a lot of videos. I do a lot more watching than creating, but I think it's cool. I think it's fun. Actually, I think it's great because you open up TikTok and it's like there's no pressure, right? Like you don't feel like
that's how I feel.
Yeah, you open up Instagram and you're like on high guard. Like you don't want to say anything stupid, or it's everyone's looking for the perfect picture and everything's super highly produced.
Yeah.
And then you go on TikTok and people are just goofing around. So it's just fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to watch what Gary Vee is doing. Like, I know that he's always like this trendsetter for entrepreneurs. So I've been watching what he's doing. And of course, his TikToks are very well produced. And I'm like,
yes.
I don't want to be doing such highly produced content for TikTok yet. But it's good to see that it works and that there is an audience there for that kind of content. So yeah, it's good.
But it does seem to be different content that he puts there. So it's more of him goofing around.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few videos where they're like snippets of his public speeches or advice or whatever, but there is a lot of goofing around too, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. It was interesting because I saw him on there when I first joined, and he only had like 2 videos, and they weren't even like TikTok worthy.
Right.
They were like clips, like 2-second clips from some interview. It wasn't interesting at all, but I realized what he had done is he had just reserved his username.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, maybe about, I don't know, 6 months ago, he started to put out a lot of content on TikTok.
Like,
and I noticed that other influencers who had also just reserved their username, all of a sudden they were on there And I saw very, very quickly that there was a shift, that these
Yes.
influencers, these people that had put a lot of effort into places like Instagram, were now also putting out content on TikTok. So it was a very clear event that seemed to happen, and maybe they're all connected with VaynerMedia. I don't know, but it certainly seemed like there was a rush to get on TikTok all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah. In my case, I also reserved my name before it was called TikTok, like when it was Musically.
Oh, really?
But I didn't quite get it. Like it was just kids doing like karaoke or something.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, not for me, but I have my name there. And yeah, now it's shifting and it's really cool to see, certainly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the last thing I wanted to ask you about, you also, besides the podcast, you're also writing a book, right?
I am. Yeah. So I started writing the book in December. I had a minor surgery and I needed to stay off my feet for a little bit. And I had been wanting to write a book for a while, and it was during the holidays. It was just like perfect timing. We closed the office for 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks in December. And so I just wrote like every single day for about 2 or 3 hours in December. I put it to the side for the last 2 months as I'm working on some other things. But the concept of the book is this: there's only about 4% of businesses actually make it to the $1 million a year revenue mark, which means that 96% of businesses either linger below that mark forever, or they just outright fail. And we were able to cross that threshold, but it took us a lot of work and a lot of pivoting and a lot of time. And so I think that there's a lot of people that want to get to that point and don't know how to. And so the book is about that journey that I was on to go from nothing, $0 in revenue, and before I even had a job or my own company, I should say, to get to the $1 million mark, and all the things that it took and all the lessons learned. So it really is very similar to like Journey to $100 million, the podcast, but it's Journey to $1 million. And so the idea is, I just want to get these lessons learned out in a long format book, so that someone who wants to take that journey, they've got a playbook, and they can see exactly how it's done. And a lot of times when I talk to people, the question that I get is, how do you get clients? And even I have that question when I'm talking to people that run much bigger companies. How do you get those big clients? It's always a question that we have, and we've done certain things here that have had success for us. And so the book's going to focus a lot on that. All the things that you can do to get clients to grow your agency up to $1 million.
Excellent. Can you give us one little snippet? Like, what would be one of the actions to take to get to the first million?
Well, so like I said before, we actually are in the B2B industry for ourselves. One of the things that we have found that works very, very well is in-person events. So like State of Digital Marketing, which I mentioned before and we talked about, was just last night. There's also Marketers Anonymous, which is our monthly marketing meetup. And there's a couple of reasons that that's important. One, you're hosting a party, basically. And so you're kind of, the popular kid at the event, and people want to talk to you. But two, you could have prospects that are created out of that, whether you know it or not. Someone that's there may need your services. But number three, you're establishing credibility. Certainly wherever you hold that meetup or event, you're establishing your credibility as an expert in that topic. So one of the reasons that we decided to hold Marketers Anonymous is because we wanted to prove really to everybody in our local market that we were the digital marketing experts. And we had so much confidence in what we do that we're going to also run a meetup to teach other marketers how to get better at marketing. And so it's great for credibility, and it's great for content creation. And we have nonstop content that comes out of that. It's great for business development because we invite speakers in. And sometimes those speakers are people that we want to work with, right? And so if you invite them, if you create a stage for them and you invite them in, now you're their buddy. And inevitably, at some point, one of them is going to ask, oh, by the way, can we talk about you helping me out? So there's just a ton of benefits to things like in-person events.
Excellent. No, it's great because the offline strategies are always probably going to be effective, even though we have so many online avenues. Like you could be doing a monthly webinar, but it's probably not going to be as effective or have the same bonding as doing it in person.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot to that still. It's just a very old school way of doing business. But that's just the way business is done. Like you want to do business with someone that you know and you trust before you start talking business. Usually,
that's right. So thank you so much, Erik J, for your time today. That was super valuable. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you, if they have any questions about the interview or anything?
The best way to get in touch with me is on Twitter. That's where I hang out the most. My handle is I am Erik J. Olson. So that's Erik, which is ERIK, and then J, and Olson is OLSON.
Perfect. So if you're watching or listening and you enjoyed the interview, go let Erik know. Let him know if you have more questions. Let him know you listened to the interview on this podcast specifically. We'll appreciate it. And thank you so much, Erik, once again for your time and all the value that you provided today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I had a good time. Appreciate it.
Awesome.